Coffee. I'm Dave. Welcome to Shop Talk. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Glenn. How are you, Glenn?
I'm still doing well, Dave.
It's good to hear. Nothing's changed then.
If it has, I'm not admitting to it. Yeah, sure. All is good. All is good in Glen world.
Good to hear. Now, we got a real pile of questions, so why don't we just start with the questions from the previous episodes?
Yeah, just before we shot our last one, you kind of popped out 3 episodes quick, so we've got a lot of questions that came through there. So let's jump right into this pet cemetery, your SuperPET resurrection thing. Okay. So the first question here from James Carver. No, hey, I'm Dave at the beginning. It's an institution.
Yeah, I try not to be superstitious about it, where I do one thing in every episode no matter what. So I kind of try intentionally to not have to do that in every episode, because there's times you don't want to have to do it, and then it'll be really weird that you didn't do it. So if you just don't do it occasionally, it's not as big a deal. That's my thinking.
And then I guess you also don't by habit do it every time you introduce yourself to everybody, which I think
I did once.
Happened.
I joined the board at the University of Washington, and they're going around doing introductions to new board members. So I did hi, I'm Dave. I'm Dave Plummer, retired software engineer from Microsoft, going back to the MS-DOS and Windows 95 days, and I have autism and blah, blah, blah.
I like.
But I got to that point where I say what the episode is about, and I kind of paused because it's like, well, now there's no script. I don't know where to go from there. So
now you're stuck with looking at me in the prompter instead of the words. Yeah. Okay, Ryan Craig, love the Friendly Giant inspired ending. Did you study at Waterloo?
I did not, although everybody assumed I did because I was from Canada and I was an intern at Microsoft, and Microsoft got a lot of people from Waterloo, right, both as full-time hires and as interns. So anybody from Canada was assumed to be from Waterloo, and I was the rare exception. In fact, I may have been the only exception that I know about you.
And you're still a rare exception, right? Roger P., will you be running a prime sieve so we all know how much faster the Threadripper is than the SuperPET?
So yeah, you don't want to make any big assumptions. But the problem is the SuperPET's only got 64K. So you can't do the sieve up to 10 million or whatever. We do have a sieve written in 6502 that will run up to, 64,000 bits or whatever. Actually, it may do a bit per. You can actually do, if you got 64K, that's a lot of bits. You can probably do almost a little over 500,000 bits if you're only storing every second bit. So you can probably do up to 500,000. I could race it against PDP-11. That might be interesting.
Well, oh, there you go. There you go. And it's funny. It hit me. A friend of mine is from Australia, and now every time I hear Ripper, I keep thinking the Threadripper.
Oh,
yeah, the Threadripper. It's bloody great, Threadripper. So
wasn't that Australian guy? Who's the guy from Gladiator? What the hell's his name?
Why do you do this?
None of us are going to remember the guy from Gladiator. He's Australian.
Yeah. Yep. He directed some movies.
His first movie was like Roller Polar or Jolly Rolly, Jolly Roger or something like that. Roly Poly. He plays like a white supremacist gang member, I believe. I've never seen the movie. I just remember seeing the poster and like really a long time ago. Too bad we couldn't remember his name.
Yeah. So it'll pop into us, one of us a little bit down the road here. Jeffrey Wilson. So I guess he says, why does isopropyl alcohol take longer to dry with a compressor than water? So his suspicion is that since most compressors collect atmospheric water in the storage tank, so if you don't have an inline dryer, the water ends up in the compressed air stream. With alcohol being hygroscopic, it joins with the alcohol on the board, increasing that. So that's his 2 bits. Says you can check
true.
his theory.
If I were
Yep. Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
That's okay. You're a barbarian like me. No, it'd be true if I were a barbarian and did not have a dryer in line. But of course I have a dryer with desiccant and all that in line. I don't have an oiler or anything weird in there because I sometimes use my air for painting as well. I run a secondary dryer and regulator if I do that. But no, it's a good air supply. So I'm not sure what would account for it.
Yeah. Dale Atkin says, what % IPA are you using in your drying step? Says 70% is the most available, but 99% would likely dry faster.
Yeah, I've got 95 and 99. I don't buy under 95. The only thing is once you open it and expose it, it starts to absorb oxygen or water from the air, and you're always going to get a little bit in it. So
IPA 95 is that's the lowest you get. If there is an IPA 6.22, you might get that, or
6.22, yeah. No, there's a 65. No, what do you? I don't know what you can get for isopropyl alcohol. 70 is like the lowest you usually see. But
yeah. Ziggy Mercury then tags in here. Okay, I can't take it anymore. I have to ask, why do computer people say isopropyl alcohol instead of isopropanol? Sure, both are correct, but it's also correct to say ethyl alcohol instead of ethanol. Doesn't mean it makes sense to do that. Oh, and great video. Love your channel. So.
But we used to call it that, right? I remember even on The Simpsons when they went to the gas station, the two pumps were elephants and they were methyl and ethyl. So I had to stick with that.
Yeah. If it's on The Simpsons, it's true. And if it hasn't happened yet, just hang on because it will.
That's right.
Yeah. Aaron Pearl. Is anyone else shouting at the screen for Dave to turn off the tap while scrubbing? You water waster.
I live in an area where we have two seasons, too much water and not enough water. And we don't store much in between except for in groundwater. So if I use it, it goes into my septic and into the ground and into the lake. So I'm not too worried. I mean, I'm not careless with water, but I'm not super conscious like I would be if I were in Arizona or Las Vegas or somewhere that they were, making water.
Yeah, what do
cost.
We get? I think it's, in Freedom units, it'd be like 6 feet in an average year, and up here north of the 49th, it'd be 2 meters of water, I think, that falls, and most of that comes within a 6-month period.
Yeah, where Saskatchewan, where we grew up, it's under 12 inches of precipitation the entire year, so it's actually a desert, technically.
Yeah, it still freaks me out how much water can come down. Kewo Tridios Muketo. What is the difference between the SP9000 and the OG SuperPET? I guess the OG would have been a PET, not a SuperPET, right?
Yeah, as far as I know, all SuperPETs are SP9000s and all SP9000s are SuperPETs. There could be exceptions that I'm not aware of yet because I'm not a super expert on the SuperPET, but that's as far as I know.
So really what we're talking about maybe is the comparison between the PET, was it 2000 or 2001? PET 2000?
Or even the 8032 would be the closest non-super PET. That's an 80-column PET with 32K of memory. So this has that board in it, and then it also has another board, which is a 6809 board that has, is it 64K of memory? Some amount of memory in there.
Right.
Because I think it does total up to like 96. Not that you can use it at the same time necessarily, but and so the SuperPET has two boards, one that runs the 6809 code, which includes all the Waterloo languages like Fortran, APL, Pascal, all those. And the regular PET just runs BASIC.
There you go. Paul Stubbs. So it died at the end?
He's the first person to mention that.
Yeah, list, but then nothing? I can't say I've heard of SuperPET. It definitely looks different with a square monitor. 2 versions of BASIC. That could get confusing. But that's
it does,
kind of the point.
especially because they're very different. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're very different basics, too. The Waterloo BASIC is a structured BASIC with, while when tags and all kinds of stuff, whereas the Commodore BASIC is really fast, but it's very basic. What was the actual question?
So he said, so it died at the end.
Oh,
List
it did.
and
That's
then
right.
nothing.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I was using Waterloo Micro Basic, and I'd written some program to print little sine wave back and forth. And then I'd paused it, and I was filming it. And then at the end, I went and typed list and hit enter, and it locked up. And it was the one board I have that is a little flaky yet. And so I've got that board out right now. And so I've got a really good SuperPET, and I've got kind of a little bit flaky SuperPET.
Yeah. So the flaky one, it's in the sink right now with the water running, or no? I'm just
no, I turned it off.
Too much background noise. I can be a bit of a jerk sometimes with that stuff, but in my mind, it's funny. Then I say it out loud, and I go, "That was dumb. Shut up." Next question. Randy Friend, what is the criteria for computers getting to join your collection? Prior use, interest, intrigue, rarity, or it was a Tuesday?
Prior use and interest. So if it was a computer that in the day I would have lusted after owning, but couldn't get and couldn't afford it, couldn't own it, that's a computer I want now. So stuff that I wasn't aware of that was really cool, like even the Apple II stuff. I have one, but I'm not very fond of it because I just didn't use the Apple II much in the day. I mean, I used it a couple of times, but I didn't stay up nights week after week with the thing like I would have with a Commodore 64 or some of the other older computers. So yeah, it's really personal use. There's no computer that's super, although not every PDP-11 that I had is one I use, but they're all in the same family. So
right. The Apple II, that was in the library, wasn't it? Didn't they have an Apple in the library?
We had one in the library, and I think we had one in the computer science lab in the back room.
Okay. I think I just remember playing Castle Wolfenstein or Wolfenstein on the Apple in the library.
Yeah, I've got that on mine too. I was like, wow, they got Wolfenstein, and then it's not the same thing.
Yeah. This is an older version. Mariano Liu, I really like when you do PET or old computer videos. By the way, how's the Kim 1 doing?
It's doing well. I should bring it out and do something with it again. By the time I get it back out, I'll forget how I did everything that I did with it. Yeah. But I had written a basic sieve test. Yeah. Yeah, it does run a sieve. We could race it against the other ones too.
Yeah.
Mostly it has basic from Microsoft, and then I've got that hooked up as basically a little operating system that you can boot into. And then I have text code to render text, and that's hooked in there so you can type and enter code. You can't like line edit like you can on a PET or a Commodore 64 or anything fancy. It's just a scrolling terminal, but it lets you do input. And then you can write graphics programs using the graphics board on it. So it can actually do 3D plots, and It's kind of fancy for a 76 machine.
Yeah. As the Simpsons say, the alleged third dimension.
The alleged.
I think that was one of the Halloween episodes. Nereus, will there be a pet cemetery?
There already is. It's the back corner of my shop. It's where pets go to die, and it's when I need parts from pets, I go and I dig something up. So it's the pet cemetery.
Yeah, it's the stuff that doesn't make it to the trickle trunk goes to the back corner. The new M4 Pro Mac Mini.
I could make a really dark joke by talking about how I don't even know what's back there because it just got buried without being labeled or anything. But we'll just leave that alone.
Yeah, you never said that.
No.
Okay, we're off to the next episode when you did the M4 Pro Mac Mini versus the M2 Ultra Mac versus the Threadripper. Conservator. Did I miss the performance to power consumption comparison? The M4 must be ridiculously power efficient.
I don't know because I don't care. And I guess maybe other people do, and I should care more because the audience cares. But for me, if the thing doesn't heat up my office or cost me a ton of money on my power bill that I can actually detect, then I don't really care too much how efficient a desktop computer that I plug into 120 volts is. Laptops, I care a lot. Servers, I do care to the extent that like I said, I don't want to heat up the room immensely. But a small little mini computer, that as long as it's not noisy and it's not kicking out a ton of heat, that's my criteria. In terms of performance per watt and stuff like that, I guess I couldn't be bothered. So my apologies if that metric is important to you. It's just not something that I look at, I guess.
So this might be a pre-apology to Frankie Digital 2000. So no power consumption charts?
It did consume power. I can confirm that.
Okay.
How much? I didn't want to speculate.
Yeah. And we can make a chart that has a box. Did it consume power and put a check mark in it? And yeah, but I don't think that's what Frankie's looking for, but that'd be a little bit goofy. Yep. Eric S., how representative are those benchmarks for daily use? His guess is that 95% of the population just needs to use YouTube, internet browser, and a word processor.
Yeah, and I think for the vast majority of the population, an M4 mini base model is probably plenty. Maybe not for storage, but for compute, it's going to be, I think, and it's going to be enough for RAM for the stuff that people do too. So in that case, I would just stick to the base model. Yeah.
And again, part of doing that video is not necessarily that, everybody needs this ultimate setup, but it's pretty neat to see what it's capable of doing. Whether or not you need one is a personal choice. And again, most folks probably don't, but
right.
Yeah. If you didn't show it, you'd be like, well, what if you did this? What if you did that? So I'm trying to show a bit of everything here. SA Error 1. How much memory does the Prime Civ test code use? Does it fit entirely in the L1 or L2 cache in these modern CPUs?
No, because it's going to be huge. It's going to use, if you're doing the primes up to 10 million, then you've got at least 5 million bits, which is going to be 600,000 bytes, which is 600K. I don't know if I did that math right, but that sounds way too big to fit in the, well, if you get a multi-megabyte cache, I guess you could, but we do larger and larger sieves to the point where eventually we see where it falls off, and that's generally where the cache is outstrapped. IBM did some really cool analysis on the Prime Civ that we gave them, and I'm looking at doing an episode on that because they found some really cool things about whether it's faster to write an 8-bit or 32-bit blocks and a bunch of tests. It's cool.
Is this a new sort of information? You just recently got that intel from them, or is this something that they'd done a while ago?
Yeah, just about a month ago.
Okay.
A couple weeks anyway.
Oh, okay, cool. Looking off switch. Hey, Dave, I was a dev on the original Visual Studio team, Boston, and the Xcode team at Apple. Just discovered your channel and love it, especially the old-timey stuff. Yeah, we're big with the old-timers. Love to know if you're using your Threadripper setup for any real-world tasks. What's the real-world stuff you're doing on that Threadripper, David?
Anything I do on Windows, I do on that machine now, pretty much. So I've got a terminal server connection to it, even though it's not on my local desk. And if I'm not gaming, I don't care. And I don't generally game, so it's good enough. And it's really fast and responsive for doing compiles if you're building large GitHub stuff. And so most of what I do is development, and some of the projects are large, and I appreciate the multi-core aspect of it. It's rarely out, it's rarely put to the test. If you're compiling a Linux kernel, yeah, it takes 19 seconds and it uses all the cores. But, that's why it takes several minutes on most machines. So you really feel the difference. And the single core performance is good enough that compiling even just a single source file is fast. It would be better on an M4 because it's so fast on the single core that it would be able to spit out that one file really quickly.
So again, we were chatting the other night and you said you'd had a particularly productive coding week. So that coding stuff you're doing, that's done on the Threadripper, or are you doing that on the Mac as well?
I'm actually doing it on the Mac, and then it gets run on the Threadripper later when we make sure that it runs on Linux.
Yeah.
Rucker takes it, and then makes it work, and then I sync it back up and see if it does on the Linux machine. Yeah, I've been working on the code to push the bits out to the, here we go.
Ooh, Rick rolled. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is one of those cheap, little matrices that they use to make up jumbotrons and big screen display advertisements and that. And so I've written code to push data out to them over Wi-Fi, and you can do it to any number of them at once. So you could build a jumbotron out of them and push data to each one or whatever you want to do. I've got a banner of 8 of them over my workbench. You could do that kind of thing. And I can do all the strips. So my Christmas lighting is broken. It's like 8,000 LEDs long, but you can't do that many LEDs on a single ESP32 at a good frame rate. So I broke it up into 8 segments of 1,000, and then they're just all recombined over Wi-Fi and drawn as one canvas. And then the code takes care of breaking that 8,000 up into everybody's 1,000 section and sending it off by Wi-Fi to that chip. And it works good. It took me about a week to get it all working, but it's code I've written once before in C#, and I wanted to rewrite it in C++. So.
And the dopamine hit you got from that after 3 or 4 days of just being in the zone was just like...
Yeah, there was
fantastic.
A lot of learning too, because what I was doing was I was taking my code, I was writing it, and then I would feed it back to ChatGPT and say, how would you improve it or take advantage of modern C++ features that I'm not using? And sometimes I didn't want to take advantage of the new features, but most of the time they were pretty clever. So I learned a lot from just asking ChatGPT because it's up to date. It's read everything, right?
Yeah. Now the other comment you made, you said that some of the stuff that it was getting back to you is just I think elegant, or what was the term you used? I can't remember, but you said like the sort of the quality of the code that you were able to generate with that interaction with ChatGPT and the feedback you were getting was just.
Yeah, it's kind of like the same code you would write if you sat down and wrote it 3 times over. The second time you're going to get better, and the third time maybe it's a little more elegant and compact, and everything lines up a little nicer. And so with this iteration on the code, it's kind of like co-programming where you and another person both work on it to try to improve it in steps. Yeah. And when you really can't make it much better, you stop. Yeah. And generally what you get out is good quality.
Yeah. Nice looking stuff too. Eh?
Yeah.
Very efficient. Yep. Clean.
I posted some samples on Twitter. So if you're curious, just go to my Twitter account and you'll find pictures of the code we're talking about.
Cool. Otis, why not compare the PC's video capabilities? Who cares about FCP?
Well, anybody who does video editing probably cares about Final Cut a little bit, but even if they don't, they should be aware of it. I could have done it, but I confess, I installed DaVinci Resolve, and I got it up and running, and I loaded my video file in. And screw it if I could figure out how to put it in a timeline and render it in the exact same way that I had done in Final Cut. And I was so worried that even if I get it to work, I'm going to be going through a different workflow, and it's going to be some different unfair comparison that the results aren't going to be meaningful anyway. So I'm just going to exclude the PC because I don't know DaVinci Resolve. So an editor who goes back and forth between these all the time would be great in that sense that they could just say, yeah, I'll do that same project in both and we'll time it. But I didn't know enough about it to do a fair comparison.
Okay. Jeremiah Lyle's editor says, great video, Dave. I enjoyed the stats. Is there a reason that you did not test the Threadripper against the Macs using speedometer and video exportation?
I believe I did.
Okay, he says if you did and did not post the results, what were they?
I think
by
I just said them
comparison?
out loud.
Okay.
I think the Threadripper was 25, the Mac Pro was 24, and then the M4 Mini was 43. That's from memory, but check the episode for the real deal. But those are
go
the
watch it
scales
again.
and numbers.
And leave a thumbs up and subscribe or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, share it with your mom.
Sure. Yeah, or your mom's mom. Yeah, our audience probably doesn't have too many of their mom's moms still going. But Tom Troche, I enjoy your videos, even the ones with dream machines if you can afford. But since the M4 Pro is only 7% faster than the plain M4, the $600 machine may best your non-M4 beasts on speedometer and therefore on performance ordinary users notice. You gave some prices, but what does your Threadripper cost?
Well, I don't know. I didn't buy the Threadripper. It's on loan from a manufacturer. I have one on loan from Dell and I have one on loan from HP. And the CPUs are about $10,000, but I've looked recently and I don't think you can buy them. So they're either really in short supply or I don't know. I could not find a current pricing on them that was fair. I mean, I was seeing them for 15,000 and stuff on eBay, but that's not right. So what the actual price is supposed to be more like 10. And the video cards are 10 to 15 a piece for these 6,000 ADAs. And the machine itself has got to be 10. So you add all that up and you got to be close to 50. And no, I didn't pay that for the machine and it's got to go back. And, so it wasn't really about the price of the machine. And that's why I didn't mention the machine, because it's kind of like, what can you do at any price to get the numbers on this side of the bar graph versus something that's cheap?
Yeah. Yeah. Christopher Davis, thanks for the video. Yeah. He says about how much would a PC like that cost and what color is the Tesla?
Light blue, baby blue.
Yeah. The only one of its kind, right?
Kind of like this, but more babyish, more powder blue. Yeah.
Cool. Piehead 9916, $5,000. I paid $4,000 for my IBM PC 4.77 megahertz in '83. It literally took 15 minutes to boot to a C prompt.
Yours is broken, man. I've got one of those machines right here on the counter. And now, granted, the memory test. No, the memory test can take a couple minutes, which is really glacial when you're sitting there watching it tick up. But once the memory test is complete, I think it boots into DOS pretty quickly. In fact, I raced Windows and DOS just to see if it was interesting. And DOS booted much faster than Windows. I guess that wasn't a surprise, even though the Windows machine was much newer. That this is against an original PC, but.
And again, in 1983, $4,000 was a pretty. That's a lot more cash then for what's sort of a decent machine, and what $4,000 gets you now. The prices sort of remain the same, although the value is quite different.
Yeah, there used to be a saying that the machine you really want costs $4,000, and that's kind of stayed true, even though. Technology itself has come way down in price. We just get more for that $4,000, but the one you want is still $4,000.
Yeah. And Richard Gets Photography again said at 507, did you purposely not mention the price? Yes. You purposely did not mention the price. Ali Jr., excellent. However, when testing video render exports, aren't you testing your ultra-fast RAID 0 disk as much as the CPU or GPU? I suspect a multi-gigabyte export process is as much I/O bound as anything. Am I wrong?
Let's see. Well, if you think about it, let's say the file winds up being 20 gigabytes, which is a pretty big video file. It takes 2 minutes to write it. It's writing at a pretty slow pace. It's nowhere near gated by your SSD speed. There may be bursts where it is constrained by that, but the overall write speed is going to be about a tenth of what your SSD can actually handle. So I don't think it's the bottleneck in that case.
There you go. Peter Jansen, you think?
I think.
Yeah.
Can't prove it, but back of the napkin math tells me not to worry about it too much.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't do my exports to an external floppy, but.
Yeah. Does anybody use the front of the napkin, or is that like final product maybe?
No, that's what you wipe your spaghetti with, and then you do your math on the back side of the napkin, like a civilized person.
Spaghetti sauce on the front. Okay.
There you go.
I mean, I'm from Saskatchewan. We just kind of used our sleeves.
Yeah, we didn't have napkins.
Yeah. Oh, we heard about the people that had napkins. Yeah.
The fancy pants people.
Yeah. The lore that was passed on. Yeah. Can always dream. Peter Jansen, the big question for him, why is the M4 so much faster with single-threaded rendering in Cinebench or Blender? They can't cheat physics with that much. So what are the differences between one core on the M4 and one core on the x86 CPUs?
I'm not sure at a microprocessor level specifically what technology ARM has that makes it faster, but right now their single core scores are faster than Intel chips or Qualcomm chips. And don't know how long they'll hold that competitive advantage. So I don't know if it's a durable one, but it's certainly an advantage right now, and it makes the Mac look pretty good. So wish I could tell you exactly why. I know that obviously the memory bandwidth is incredibly high on the unified memory systems, but even in the Prime Civ, we didn't see that as being as big a win as I thought we would. So don't know what to account for or what to account it to, but it's true.
Screwdiver. Or Deaver? Screwdiver? I like that. Great video. Quick question. Is it viable to buy Mac Mini for hosting LLMs?
I think so, as long as you get a reasonable amount of memory, which is probably going to be 32, 48, 64 gigabytes, which is going to get expensive on it. And I would not cheap out on memory if I was doing LLMs. The Mac Pro has 128, and it will run any of the ones except for the really big models that you throw at it, anything that's reasonable. So 64 is probably enough.
There you go. MV Hens. I was told that connecting an old iMac as a monitor to a new M4 is not possible. Is there some technical explanation why this does not work?
Technically, Apple wants your money and they want you to buy a new monitor. And I just went through this because, I can't tell you till after Christmas because then the person I bought it for would know. But, yeah, you can't take an iMac and plug an M4 Mini into it and use what was the Command F2 mode, which was I don't know what they call it, the target display mode maybe. And so it would use your iMac as for a Mac Mini display. And it only worked in the old Thunderbolt 2 days, I believe. And it worked great. I used it on one Mac for a while, and that was the last they ever supported that feature. And I'm sure it's not to screw consumers, but to screw consumers, so they got to buy a new monitor. Otherwise, you can take your iMac with you.
There you go. Khalili English. Hey, Dave. Got a question. That's why I'm asking it. Why don't you use your PC for editing? Does Mac have any advantage over PC in editing?
Just the Final Cut software. And on the lower end PCs, I think the GPU performance for video editing, because of the encoders and stuff that they have in the M series chips, for a $600 box, it does some pretty amazing encoding and video editing. And that's not the one to buy if you're doing video editing, but it can still do it. Whereas with a $600 PC budget, you're not going to get anywhere near to having a GPU that's powerful enough to do any kind of impressive editing. So there's a certain price inflection point where it actually gets cheaper on the PC because you can throw a 4090 into a decent PC and probably far outpower the Mac Pro Ultra. But that's with a 4090, and that thing costs a couple grand right there. So that's the main thing. I think for most people, it's the software. For me, it's the Final Cut Pro software that I just enjoy the software and understand how it works. I'm used to it, and I don't want to change now. So
they've got you hooked.
I was tempted. When I got this machine with the dual RTX 6000s, and I saw the Geekbench GPU score of 391,000. I was like, wow, that's versus 200,000 on the Mac Pro, and it's just kind of sitting there and not doing anything in the video. So that's why I was curious to go through the DaVinci Resolve process and see how far I could get it, but I just didn't get it far enough.
Yeah, and then it's the switching software and all that stuff, and a little bit of challenge there. Franklin Arguidas.
And I want to be clear, it's not like I spent 3 days trying to figure out DaVinci Resolve. It's while I was doing benchmarks, I was like, I should probably do this too, and fired it in there. I was like, crap, this looks hard. I'm not screwing around with this right now.
Franklin Arguidas has a suggestion and then a question. Sir, make your videos less complex and to the point. What he needs is for an expert like yourself to tell him whether to use the Mac Mini base model for designing engine simulations for teaching and training is enough, or does he need to buy the Pro model?
Direct and to the point. Well, let's do an episode just for him. Hey, I'm Dave. Welcome to the shop. The answer is Mac Mini. Thanks for joining me out here in the shop today. Good night.
Excellent. There you go, Franklin.
Mac Mini will do fine for that, I would think.
Yeah. And Mock Daddy. Maybe you could talk about the graphics of the Sphere in Las Vegas.
I'd like to. I'd like to know more about it. I wrote out to somebody. No, I reached out and wrote to the company that did the engineering on the lighting for the Sphere, asking if I could maybe talk to their lead engineer. I thought it'd be a fascinating interview for the channel, but I was never able to reach anybody. So if anybody's got anybody that knows anybody at the Sphere Company that knows the technical people that built the lighting and want to talk about it, I think it'd be a great interview. Please connect me somehow.
There you go. Alan Quevedo, how about Bitcoin mining? Which machine works best?
Well, it's going to be the Threadripper with the 2 giant NVIDIA cards, depending on, I guess, for Bitcoin. But you really can't mine Bitcoin on a PC now anyway, right? You have to have an ASIC and everything else, as far as I know, to do anything productive. So if you just mean coin mining, then it depends on the coin. But if you literally mean Bitcoin mining, I don't think you can effectively Bitcoin mine on a PC these days.
Oh, okay. There you go. Be more specific, Alan. No, we're just...
To the point.
Yeah. NY4I. Is the "I'm a busy man" line a throwback to your recent telemarketing death loop? If so, it's a great way to reference that one.
I got a lot of stuff to do. No, actually, it's stolen from The Simpsons. It's the episode when they go to the carnival and there's a carnival barker and he's got Hitler's death car or something. And he's got the crowd around. He's like, some say Hitler's body's still in the trunk. I don't know. I'm a busy man. I haven't checked. And I always like that line. So
that's a good one. Lab
Busy
Monkey.
man.
Yeah. PC is still the master race. How many of your viewers actually watch this in 4K?
I don't know, but I make it in 4K for you. And I upload it in 4K and I render it in 4K and I do all the slow steps that are slower in 4K. But hopefully one day it will matter.
Yeah, if it's not for Lab Monkey, maybe Lab Monkey's kids in another 10 or 15 years will be watching it in 4K. So, yeah.
Yeah, the scholars.
It's for posterity. And yeah. Pixel Vogue, what happened to the proper car? The M3.
M3, it's still there.
Yeah.
I've got a 14,000 mile original 2003 M3 SMG Cabriolet. And I bought it because it looked a lot safer than the Mustang convertible I was driving at the time. And because my head, the top of the windshield came to about here on me. And I went to the BMW dealer to see what they had for convertibles. And they had one in the back. And he goes, come with me. And he shows me. And this car's been rolled down a hill several times on a test drive. They went off a cliff and the guy rolled it. But all the safety things deployed and everybody was fine and nobody was injured. And I was like, yeah, I want that car. And then I had to figure out how to pay for it and get it. But that was a separate trip.
Safety first.
Yeah. It made me know I wanted it anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And what is it? Yeah, it doesn't even have 15,000 miles, right?
Not yet.
And it's got that oddball transmission in it too.
Yeah, the SMG.
Sorry, oddball is probably not the best way to refer to it.
Oh, it hurt me. I mean, I thought the 6-speed guy would say that to me, but I didn't know not you too. Yeah, a lot of guys do prefer the 6-speed. And I think if you want a driver's car, probably the 6-speed is better. If you want a collectible car, I think the SMG is probably the way to go because it's kind of the weird oddball transmission that was cool in the day.
Oh, yeah. When you say it, it's cool. When
yeah,
I
but it's
say
our
it,
word.
Oh, right. I'm not part of the club. Last question here, or comment on the M4 Pro and the M2 Ultra from Divel. So the point with this video is that you're rich?
No. The point is that I'm cool. I'm rich because I'm cool. No, I don't even know what he's talking about.
Kick sand in my face. That'll teach you. Yeah.
My rental PC? That's an expensive PC. I'm not sure what he's talking about.
Yeah. I don't know. That's, you're trying to show a whole bunch of stuff that's hard. Yeah. I know you're conscious about not trying to flex, but
Yeah, the Mac Mini is $699.
Yeah.
So it's not too big of a flex.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't even give a price on the PC.
And the other ones are on loan, so they're not yours. Okay, now we're going to get to the fun one here. Well, they're all fun. The episode you did, I cloned my own voice to waste telemarketers' time. Man, this thing just blew up. It was really fun looking at the comments here. Michael Lundgren, I love this. Can you go into more detail on what software you used and how you prepare the training data? Says he dabbled with voice cloning earlier this year, but never got any results as good as what you got.
Yeah, I had played around with a number of things before as well and was not impressed with the results at all. And so what I did is I went to 11 Labs, who I'd heard had kind of the leading tech on it. And I played with their stuff and it was good, the free stuff, and it was pretty good, but it wasn't good enough to like do an audiobook yet. And so that's kind of what I wanted to know. Could I just take my book manuscript, read it in or force it in there and out pops an audiobook?
Yeah, well, if you read it in there, it'd probably be really good.
If you trained the whole book into it, it'd be great. So then I'm trying it, and I went and got the pro version, which costs whatever it is, $20 a month, $30 a month, but it then allows you to do this voice training of a pro version. And you have to upload a lot of crisp, clean, no noise background audio of just you talking. And of course, I was able to take show episodes, and I stripped out like the first 3 minutes because there's usually some music and stuff like that in there. But the last section of most videos is just me talking. So fed that all in. And so it has something like 3 or 4 hours worth of audio training. And it came out pretty good. It sounds a lot like me reading an episode as opposed to me having a conversation at a park bench or on the bus, but that's what it's trained on. So that's what you can expect. And then I gave the model, they have a assistant AI that you can give your tech support data to, and then it will act as a tech support agent. So here's your list of 50 questions you always get from customers. You can feed this into this model, and now it can at least answer the topmost 50 common things. And it's kind of neat that way. So I stripped out all that, and I just put in all this information about how to hassle telemarketers and pretend to be interested and, make vague commitments and all this instructions. And it was pretty good at it. I did see a question in there about how did it know to punt everything to your wife? And I think actually that's because no. Yeah, I don't know. Because I was going to say, I thought that I, as the caller, mentioned it, but no. Which once he did, I said, well, why don't you get your wife and just go ask her? But so, yeah, it was interesting that it came up with that. Still, really weird the way it started snoring and falling asleep at the end and ignoring me and making weird sounds. And I told it, waste time and stuff like that, but it's pretty creative.
It was classic. Oh, it was fun to watch. Robinson Technologies. Could you tell me more about the back end and latency of the response? It looks like you've edited some or all of it out, and I'm very interested in what's possible, as that's really important with fooling people to thinking it's a real person.
So the reason I edited it, and I did actually edit out some extra delay, but the latency is actually pretty good. It's better than similar to talking to ChatGPT on your phone. Probably a little faster than that, actually. The reason I edited it is because what I did is I recorded it, and then I also room recorded so I could hear it. But then I had 2 versions of my voice in there, so I had to go through and chop me out every time because there was 2 of me going on, one through the mic and one through the phone. And then piece it back together. So sometimes when I pieced it back together, it wasn't exactly aligned with where it was originally. But no, I probably could have left it without having done any editing had I not had the audio problem.
Yeah, so here's the question from Scott Laidler. That's amazingly accurate. How did you train the model to specifically throw your wife under the bus for all accountability of working the work done in the first place? What tools were used and how did you make this work? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I kind of just explained that, but it was primarily the priming information that I gave to the model.
And then Paul Rear says, was this hosted locally?
No, it's hosted at 11 Labs.
At 11 Lab, there you go. Brendan Hortman says, do you think that popping is a sample rate or buffering problem?
I don't know. I noticed that, and I don't know actually what's causing it, but I didn't hear it until after I had edited the video. So, and I didn't make any changes to the audio, and Final Cut shouldn't. So it seems to be in the original audio, but I don't remember when I was interacting with it.
Yeah. You were so in awe,
sure.
That's why. It
was.
Yeah.
Talking to me now.
Yeah. I was confused, man. John Bush, absolutely brilliant. I just wonder what would happen if a telemarketing company started using an AI to pitch its stuff and met your AI. What would happen? Might be a new episode of The Twilight Zone. 2 AIs battling out while organic humans went about actually being productive. Oh, maybe I could use that in some of my municipal work. No.
It could be a TV show. 2 AIs call each other, fall in love, and then just have cute conversations.
Oh, yeah.
For 22 minutes at a time with some ads in between.
Right.
Sounds like a network show.
Yeah, there you go. Ruben Provencio. The files on MS-DOS, so it's on that episode. The files on MS-DOS 6.22 installation diskette number 4 that end in, for example, .ex _ are compressed, correct? How are they
familiar
compressed?
with the files on the first 3 disks, but the 4th disk is getting a little hazy.
So how are they compressed? And to decompress them, use the expand command, or how do they decompress?
Yeah, so they are compressed with what's known as far as I know, cabinet file compression.
Oh, okay.
And so you can pack many files into a .cab. And that was called diamond compression. And that was done by Ben Slivka, who was the guy that hired me. Yeah. Now on DOS, there's compress and expand. And I assume, but do not know, but I assume they use the same compression because why would they not? And so I assume that when you're expanding, compressing files from the command line, that you have to supply the last missing letter and that it's using diamond compression behind the scenes.
Okay. And you're very sure of that for disks 1, 2, 3, and assuming that's probably...
But I'm assuming, 4/4.
Okay. We'll double check that. So now we're off to our questions from our last episode of Shop Talk here. There's at least one other person in the world shares the same name as you. This is from Dave Dude.
Dave Dude.
Hi, Dave.
It's my president.
There you go. Another great episode. He has a task manager question that has always bugged him. And then he says, Task Manager is a super useful app. Thanks so much for writing it. When you go to the Details tab and right-click on the column headings, there's an option to select columns, which is super useful and saved my bacon many times. The list of columns is quite long and seems to be in no order that I can work out. Why is the list not in alphabetical order? Dave? I put the extra Dave at the end for emphasis.
Well, I am from Canada, and French is the second language. And if you translate that to French, you will see they are organized in French, yes? No, actually, it's no. But if you did translate them, it would switch the order around. So it depends what language you're getting them in. I'm going to guess, and I don't know, that I ordered them by order. I find them useful, personally. You know, the ones you're going to pick are going to be at the top of the list, and the really obscure things are maybe going to be at the bottom of the list. That's the only thing I can think I would do other than alphabetical. I wouldn't put them in random order. I know that.
Yeah. They're in Dave order.
That might be a weird order, but it's an order.
Yeah. But you're getting them in my order, if I was you, but I'm not. But in your order, because you're you and you did it. Okay, just ask the questions, dummy. Orville Chomer. So you're the friendly giant? And you moved to the West Coast?
I'm the friendly.
Do you know how to play the recorder?
I do. And I can play the song on the recorder. I don't have a recorder handy or I would prove it. But no, I am not the friendly giant. I was the friendly programmer in one episode, though. So I did an extended version of the ending. I don't know if you must have seen that one. Because
I've seen it. Right. Yeah.
I found the original CBC long intro and modified that one.
And when's the last time you played the recorder?
At my mother-in-law's house, who has been dead for 6 years. So it's been a while.
Really?
Yeah.
The house was just kicking around?
Oh, yeah, because grandma or Nana has recorders for the kids to play, right? So I'd pick one up and I'd be like, well, I can only think of one song, and I'd just knock out the friendly giant after some fiddling around to figure it out.
Holy cow. Man, I thought I'd be like maybe Three Blind Mice or something. That'd be it for me. Mary Had a Little Lamb? I could pull that off on a recorder with little practice.
Yeah, that's only 3 notes, so that's not bad. Like Friendly Giant's like 5, man. It's complex.
Yeah. So like 3-chord gourd. I'm going to get in trouble for that one from the Canadians. Last question here, Mr. Dave, from Sami Yi. How do you two know each other? Childhood friends, old co-workers, etc.?
We went to high school together.
Yeah.
We were both in the same special ed class in grade 9.
This is me in grade 9. Yep. And then, there's about 35
that song is
years.
especially apt because it's written about, the same age as us. So if you listen to it, all the references are perfectly aligned with us in grade 9, just on timing, because the guys that wrote it must have been the same age. So.
And that's the Bare Naked Ladies.
Bare Naked Ladies.
Who actually did have a fair amount of success in the United States after a little while, too. So.
They had one song did really well, and then they had another album, and they made them release a song that sounded a lot like the first song but wasn't as good, rather than releasing the good song off the second album, and that was all you ever heard from them. It doesn't take much to screw it up in the music business. So.
That is the end of the questions from 3 episodes on Dave's Garage and our last version of Shop Talk. That's about all I got rattled around in my little janky brain. Although you did get a new, not a piece of, not hardware, but a container for the Tickle Trunk PDP.
I got a BA-23, a deck BA-23. which is the big full monster. And it's not the biggest case, but it's the biggest regular sized case that will hold a PDP 1173. And it looks like it's in fairly nice shape from the pictures I've seen. So
Yeah, Chris said he's a little bit fussy with this stuff and kind of likes to mint it out. So I don't even think there'll be an opportunity for a cleaning montage in that one too. But yeah.
So all the parts that I had put in the Franken PDP, I will now put into the real PDP case.
And it's
like
heavy,
Pinocchio. He'll be a
even
real boy.
with nothing in it.
It is. It's a monster case. They're just all steel chassis inside. You take them apart, and then there's steel plates unbolt from the steel bars, and they're heavy duty.
I was not prepared for how heavy an empty computer case was.
Yeah,
yeah. I'll get it. I'll get used to that. That's all I got. You got any sort of little tidbits or updates other than you had a fantastic week of coding last week? And
no, I had a lot of fun coding. Gonna code some more. Maybe do an episode on the coding. Just did an episode on the generator situation we went through here because we didn't have power for 6 days. So if you haven't seen that one yet, go check it out and see if you can find it. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Turn on notifications. Subscribe to Dave's Attic, which is this channel, so you can see Shop Talk. And maybe turn on notifications so that you get a notification because it will be randomly otherwise, whether you see it or not.
Tell a friend.
Tell a friend.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining me, Glenn. Talk to you guys later. Have a great night. Good night. This little chair will be waiting for one of you, and a rocking chair for another who likes to rock, and a big armchair for two to curl up in. All next time on Dave's Garage.